I tell you what, there's something interesting happening in Parliament this week. One of your colleagues gave a speech, George Christensen. It was condemned by both sides of the chamber, but it was also censored off of YouTube. Now, for me, I'm just wondering how widespread this sort of censorship is going to go when parliamentarians doing their job, they're allowed to have controversial views, they're allowed to engage in the debate. It's under parliamentary privilege, it'll be printed in Hansard, but now we're not allowed to see it online or in one of these tech giants' portfolios.
Well, I was going to say, actually, you mentioned parliamentary privilege. I'm sure you never required it, Cory, because I'm sure you're always very justified in your statements in Parliament. But it's a good point. I mean, the whole point of the exercise is that Parliament is allowed to be, and is meant to be, a full and frank contest of ideas under the cloak of privilege. So we want parliamentarians to go in there and give us the message that's coming back from their community, their views on a whole range of subjects. And I absolutely support George Christensen's right to freedom of speech. And it is alarming that this foreign company, YouTube, and I think probably others, probably parent company Google, have taken this point, probably Facebook as well. All these big tech companies now are ruling our democracy from a foreign country. We've seen it time and time again. This very network has suffered at the hands of this. And, you know, we have to understand one person's truth is another man's fiction. And it seems to be that some of these big tech companies are relying on the ever-wobbling advice that's coming out of the World Health Organization, the same organisation, by the way, that told us initially that the Wuhan lab leak was a conspiracy theory. Well, it is not. These are very dangerous times. These big tech companies can no longer be allowed to be the arbiters of free speech and medical truth as well. So, look, George is entitled to his view. I absolutely support that. And I think it's a very, very dangerous precedent, and it's something that we need to explore more in the federal system.
And this is the hallmark, I think, of the right of centre of politics, in the sense that we don't have to agree with someone's views in order for us to defend their right to be able to share them. But the left of the political equation don't like that. They only want to hear views from the echo chamber. And you were meant to, I think, go to the Media Diversity in Australia Senate hearing that was postponed. It was today, and let's not gild the lily. This is targeted by the Greens and Kevin Rudd at trying to shut down different opinions on Sky News. I think it's absolutely appalling. But what's the latest on this Senate committee hearing?
Well, it's been postponed, as I understand it, Cory, as a result of the Canberra lockdown. It should be back on next week, I think possibly at the same time. So the issue here, of course, is that we are dealing with information that's come through Sky News, of course, and there were a range of reasons given for that censorship. As again, part of the issue was the whether or not it complied with the World Health Organization's views on this, that and the other. As I've said, that's a dangerously slippery slope. But you have to remember, every time we see censorship from big tech, almost exclusively, it cuts through the heart of conservative commentary. There was a very good example of that very recently with Senator Rand Paul in the United States, who was effectively censured and sanctioned for comments which were absolutely identical to comments made about masking, which were made by Joe Biden's own medical advisor in a very close proximity to his own comments. So, I mean, you can only draw the conclusion here that big tech is working for one side of the fence, and it's not the conservative side.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Senator Alex Antic. Thank you for your time tonight. Now, before you go, I will point out that the part of the problem with the censorship of Sky News was the fact that there was no justification or rationale other than you've breached the content guidelines. They wouldn't say what they are. And that's one of the big challenges we have. It's just unilateral. Thanks for your time tonight, Senator Antic. I really appreciate it. And we'll chat again, hopefully, next week.
Thanks, Cory.